standing.
Yeah, he's been standing. Would you please stand and join me in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Shut my phone off so I don't forget. All right, I'm gonna call the meeting to order September 12th, 2023 at 6 p.m. You gonna do roll call, Rochelle?
Councilmember John Larson,
Yes.
Councilmember Missy White. Present. Councilmember Dan Hahn,
Present.
Council President Melinda Cox. Present. Mayor Monty Richardson.
Present.
Councilmember Julia Stubble.
Present.
Councilmember Josh Hahn. Let the record reflect that Councilmember Josh Hahn is not present. Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. A motion to approve the agenda as presented. So moved.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Larson, second by Councilwoman Cox. To approve the agenda as presented. Any questions or concerns? Since there is no one call for the question, Councilwoman Stubble.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Okay, first on our agenda is a public hearing. Open the hearing, Community Development Block Grant, CDBG application to extend Jefferson Street into the proposed park. Ray Jean.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution 1307, a resolution authorizing an application to the Community Development Block Grant for funding the Poposia River Park Jefferson Street access. Whereas in 2021, the city of Lander purchased undeveloped land for the purpose of developing Poposia River Park. And whereas the governing body for the city of Lander recognizes the need to construct multimodal access to Poposia River Park for citizens of all ages and abilities. And whereas Community Development Block Grant has determined that the project location exists in a 2020 census block with 56.42% of low to moderate income residents and is eligible for funding application in 2024. And whereas the Community Development Block Grant allows for application for 100% of the estimated $1.25 million project cost. Whereas the governing body of the city of Lander, Wyoming recognizes and supports the need for this project and submittal of this grant application. Now therefore be it resolved by the governing body of the city of Lander agrees to submit an application in the amount of the total estimated project cost of $1,275,000 to assist in funding the project. And this resolution is just in support of an application. As you see, there is no match required for the city, so it can be 100% grant funded. This is actually for land acquisition and construction to get Jefferson Street extended into the new Poposia River Park. And I would entertain any public questions or comment. I have not received any public comment to date.
Is there council? Councilman Hahn?
I just had one question. I'm down here where it says the annual park maintenance budgeted. Do we have any idea what that is going to cost?
That's a great question, Councilman, but we don't have a budget yet because we don't know what types of facilities will be in that park. We could get you a number for what it would take to maintain the streets, curb and gutter and the parking lot and that kind of stuff. But for maintenance of the entire park, that's to be determined because eventually we'll know what the park is developed as.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? None? Anything from the audience? Okay, since there's none, I'm gonna close this public hearing at 6:04 p.m. on September 12th, 2023. Public hearing's closed. Move on to Number 4, another public hearing. There's ordinance 2023-3, amending Title 12, Section 12-33, Parks and Recreation, includes park and city rules. Lance is absent this evening out of town. Regine? I guess he said you would handle this one. How do you want it?
No.
And I might be able to help out
Yeah,
a
and I
little
thought the
bit.
chief would be here too, so.
The chief's not here. Some of the rules that we're amending is to be able to make it more broad in terms of what the rules are. So not having the rules spelled out in ordinance, but having them being able to be modified by resolution and then posted at the parks. So it gives us flexibility in terms if we want to change them, we can change them by resolution instead of by ordinance. And for each park in the city of Lander, instead of designating separate rules that would apply to separate parks. And we could do that if we wanted to. I have a little bird whispering in my ear.
Go ahead and read it, Rachel.
I will read the proposed ordinance as it was presented to me. Ordinance 2023-3, amending Title 12, Section 12-3-3, Parks and Recreation to include city park rules. Whereas a provision for city park rules should be included in Section 12-3-3. Now therefore be it ordained by the mayor and council of the city of Lander in the state of Wyoming as follows. Section 1, Amendment 12-3-3, Parks and Recreation of the city of Lander Municipal Code is hereby amended as follows. Before the amendment, meaning as it currently reads. 12-3-3 Parks and Recreation. A, city park rules. Number 1, hours of operation. All parks and recreational facilities within the city owned and maintained by the city for the public shall be closed between the hours of 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. each day. And it is unlawful for any person to be in any such park or recreational facility during these hours with the following exceptions. Sub A, overnight camping shall be allowed in City Park at those spots which are expressly designated and marked for the purpose. Overnight campers are limited to staying no more than 3 consecutive nights or staying longer than a period of 72 consecutive hours. There shall be no fees charged for camping in a city designated camping area. B, while city recognized organized activities are occurring, for example, softball games, rodeos, etc., the park shall remain open until the organized activity has finished. C, persons using the city park access road in order to access private residencies located on the city park access road. Number 2, persons found to be violating Section 12-3-3A shall be notified by any city employee, including Parks and Recreation employees, to vacate the premises, and in the event they fail to do so, shall be guilty of trespassing within the meaning of the Lander City Code Ordinance 7-5-1. After the amendment, meaning what the proposal is to change the language. 12-3-3 Parks and Recreation. A, city park rules. Number 1, all parks and recreational facilities within the city maintained by the city for the public shall have park rules for each park location as created by resolution and approved and adopted by the governing body. Each park location shall have posted signage listing park rules pertaining to each location. Number 2, persons found to be violating posted park rules shall be considered to be in violation of city ordinance, which is a misdemeanor unless otherwise stated, and upon conviction shall be punishable by a maximum fine of $750 or imprisonment for not more than 6 months. Forfeitable bonds will be as set forth in the Lander Municipal Court Bond Schedule as adopted from time to time. Section 2, violation of this ordinance shall constitute a misdemeanor unless otherwise stated, and upon conviction shall be punishable by a maximum of $750 or imprisoned by not more than 6 months. Section 3, all ordinances or part of ordinances in conflict herewith are hereby repealed. Section 4, severability. If any section, subsection, sentence, phrase, or clause of this ordinance or application thereof to any person or circumstances is held invalid, such invalidity shall not affect the other provisions or applications of this ordinance, which can be given effect without the invalid provision or application. And to this end, the provision of this ordinance are declared to be severable. Section 5, this ordinance shall take effect from and after its passage, approval, and publication as required by law and the ordinances of the city of Lander. Proposed passed on first reading would be September 12th, 2023. Passed on second reading, proposed October 10th, 2023. Passed on third reading, proposed November 14th, 2023. And then the rest of the document is a recording of who would vote yes or no, and those sorts of things.
Questions, council? Councilman Larson.
Yes, so he says then, you're saying then that we can either pass park rules via
Resolution.
what resolution,
Resolution.
resolution. And it would make sense to me that you know, that city park that allows camping, you know, you've got those rules there, but north side and those other parks where you don't allow camping, you know, it looks to me like it needs to be on a park by park basis.
And it absolutely is. That's the whole
Okay.
reason for the ordinance.
Perfect.
And to allow you guys to be able to make modifications to those park rules by resolution
Rather than ordinance, yes.
rather than ordinance, but also on a park by park basis.
Okay.
And then also that the park rules would be posted at each park so people know exactly what the park rules are.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
Mayor?
Councilwoman Sewell?
May I? Thanks. I have a couple questions. One follow-up to that. Where do there are more rules for the parks right now than what this ordinance spells out, which is really about hours of operation for city park. Where was that the Parks and Rec Board that would set those rules previously, and we're now adopting that authority through resolution for ourselves?
That is correct. The Parks and Rec Board set the park rules and then you guys adopted them by ordinance. And then when the chief got here, there were some things that were unenforceable. So we changed it not too long ago, I'm going to say a year ago, to read as it does now. And now this request is also at the behest of the chief.
Got it. That's great. Thank you. I appreciate the flexibility this offers us and the ability to be, adapt rules per facility, I think, as necessary. So generally, I think this seems like a pretty great idea. I do have a question or two comments on the language in the proposed amendment. It appears to me that we use city park as both a specific designation to talk about, right, the park at the end of Third Street, but also in this about city parks generally. So I think just keep an eye on when we're trying to be broad with the idea of city parks versus the city park. And then section A2 or subsection A2 seems to be redundant to me with section 2. So just a catch on that. And is the intention, this is a question then, is the intention that if we pass this ordinance amendment after the 3 readings, we would move into the resolutions for each park pretty quickly thereafter?
We would like to have those resolutions ready by the 3rd reading.
Okay.
So that when the park rules are adopted and published in the paper, the signs can be made and we're already done, right? So it has to follow pretty fast.
Okay, that's great. I think I asked it just so I can think about when I'm gathering input, but also as a call to folks in town. If you want to weigh in on the rules of those resolutions, then we're aiming for that to be the November 14th meeting, if this schedule holds.
Well, at the 3rd reading, the resolutions would be done.
Right, which would be if we hold to the schedule, the 14th.
All right.
So the resolutions could be passed the next meeting after the 3rd reading,
I'm sorry.
because it has to be published in the newspaper to take effect, which can't happen until after approval at the 3rd.
Thank you. So Mayor, if I may, so in December at our business session, we'll be looking at the resolutions with rules, at which point that discussion we've had early on about camping in City Park will be back and relevant then. Okay. And Mayor, I think just another question then on resolution. Thank you.
Yeah.
Rolling with it. Thank you. If we do the rule making by resolution, how durable are the resolutions? Do they stand until we edit or reverse them, or do we need to re-up them every year?
They're permanent
They're permanent.
unless modified
Okay, great.
or another resolution comes in and changes it.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, it feels like I've seen some resolutions that we often look at and adapt and so. That's it. Thank you, Mayor.
That's it. Anybody else? Council? Anybody from the audience? Since there is none, I'm gonna close this public hearing. At 6:12 on September 12th, 2023. One more time, we have a public hearing. The city landed budget amendment FY 22-23. Who wants to read that, Kevin, or got it?
Yeah, so this is resolution 1305, a resolution to amend the 22-23 fiscal year budget. Whereas the city of Lander needs to amend the budget to adjust allocations within the current budget and accept unanticipated income and reduce anticipated income and expenses. And whereas notice of a public hearing on the amendment was published in the Lander Journal, a legal newspaper published and of general circulation in the county of Fremont, Lander, Wyoming, on September 6th, 2023. And whereas the public hearing was held September 12th, 2023, on the amendment at time and place specified in said notice, at which time all interested parties were given the opportunity to be heard. Fund 10, General Fund, revenue, taxes, sales tax, $162,201. Taxes general, $9,799. Homeland Security, $33,195. Community Center, $27,000. Interest, $125,000. Total revenue, $357,000, 195, $357,195. Expenditures, community center, $10,000. Other general, $3,000. Police, $33,195. Building inspector, $8,000. Streets, $120,000. Rodeo grounds, $15,000. Building repair and maintenance, $7,000. Shop, $26,000. Lander Golf Course, $125,000. Cemetery, $6,000. Weed and Pest, $4,000. Total expenditures, $357,195. And that's all there is.
Questions? Council? Councilman Larson?
So is it the $357,195 that is that the excess revenue or the extra revenue that we had come in?
Councilman Larson, the information that I have is that we had accepted some unanticipated revenue from that was not in the budget from the police department for equipment.
But that was the 357,000?
That's what the total revenue is. And so Shari moved money within those categories.
Okay, all right.
So yeah, that was the total amount that was adjusted.
And then I remember talking about the police with that 33,000. Are these other, am I just going senile and so forth and don't remember these other expenditures being visited about? I specifically looked at the 15,000 for the rodeo grounds, last meeting that we had. I thought we had 5,000 in there and everybody else thought we had $500 in there. So where did this $15,000, how did that mysteriously come in there and is part of the budget?
And that's a good question because she didn't share that with me.
John, I think that was
So yeah,
some of that and it just go ahead and say it.
yeah.
Unanticipated revenues that we got and we adjusted those budgets so they give them more money in the budgets to work with.
Okay, I'm sure they're happy, but
Right.
Can I,
Go ahead.
to maybe clarify, this is last year's budget, not this year's budget. So we're shoring up funds in last year's budget. Shari likes to do this once a year to end up balancing the budget. So some accounts may have been overspent, and so she's taking money and moving those into different spots.
okay,
So this was the 22-23 budget, and And I don't know if, because we just went through the 24 budget
Right.
and
Got
no, I
that.
don't remember what those numbers were either.
Mayor?
Go ahead.
So I could clarify just a tiny bit more for the revenue portion, John. When every year when you guys approve an annual budget, there's an estimated number of taxes that will come in, estimated number of community center rental revenue that will come in. And if those come in higher, then she has to adjust the revenues that come in for
Okay.
that. So
Okay.
that's on the revenue side. And then on the expenditure side, like you said, what came in for the police went out for the police because that was a grant. And the expenditures for streets was overspending the maintenance budget. The rodeo grounds, the same thing. So most of those others are, there was a budgeted item and those departments, in order to make things run, you guys heard the golf course present, and then Lance spent some money on the infrastructure for the sprinkler system for the golf course over and above what we had originally budgeted. So that's the way that those things happen.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes, it did. I was thinking that this was, for this year's budget. And, okay, thank you. Yeah.
Yes. Council, anybody from the public? If there's no more questions, I'm gonna close this public hearing at 6:20 PM on September 12th, 2023. Public hearings are closed. Moving on, communication from the floor, public comment. Okay, no public comment, so we'll move on to mayor and council updates. Councilman Larson.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. In August, met with the Solid Waste District, Fremont County Solid Waste District, and there's some fees that are going to be going up there that will affect everybody in the county. And some of the larger ones are, old junk trailer house disposal fees. And yeah, that's an issue. And they've got a couple different options to do that. Right now they're paying 4 cents a pound for household waste and so on and so forth. And what they'll do now is you can either go over the scale and pay per pound of whatever, your trailer house is. But a lot of times, those come in several dump truck loads or something like that, and so that can be kind of difficult. And so they said, okay, we'll go with $2,000 for every trailer that comes across, and no specific weight, but I guess it's also quite common, or has been found to be a good way to get rid of stuff, is that if you got a trailer that's going to be disposed of, you just pack that thing so full of crap that that it breaks the axles going into the dump. And so if you've got a trailer filled with stuff, it's going to be $2,500. Tires are another one that has been a big issue for a long time, and they've went to a fee schedule now for automobile and light truck tires of $8 per tire. And if you've got more than just, I think they had that, trying to remember how that was set up. It was like for 5 tires total, and I don't know where they pulled that number out. I guess if you had all 4 tires in your spare and you brought them in or something, I don't know. But anyway, it was for it'd come up to like $40 if you brought the tires in. But anyway, they backed it off and says, okay, just $8 per tire. But then if you had the big tires, tractor tires, loader tires, heavy equipment tires, something like that, then you're looking at $232 per ton to get rid of that stuff. The scale houses are under construction and in progress. The transfer station is being worked on and in progress. And right now, things are going very well there. The chamber will have our meeting there tomorrow. And so I can report on that later on. The LOTRA is just working on their schedule and budget for next year. And I guess we've got a meeting, I'm thinking it was September sometime, Regine, discussing the contract for the
MOU.
rodeo, not the rodeo grounds, but the LOTRA building itself.
We're meeting next Wednesday, the 20th, with
Next
the
Wednesday.
LOTRA board.
Okay, good deal. I think that's all I've got, Mayor.
Hey, thank you. Councilwoman White?
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a number of things. I do want to give a shout out to the crews working on trying to fix all these water issues around town. I know they're working hard. They know there's a weather deadline, hopefully still a ways down the road, but really appreciate all the work they're doing for that. Sadly, I missed the last planning commission meeting due to traveling, so I can't give you an update on that. I was with the senior center this morning, though. Good news. I mentioned earlier that the Judd's Grub Wimpy Burger fundraiser was in the works. They think they'll be able to do it probably in October sometime. So stay tuned for more info about that. And also they would love to get the word out that they could use some assistance for drivers for the delivering the Meals on Wheels. So you're not carrying passengers. You don't have to go through all the rigmarole of commercial driver's license, but it can be, you know, a single day a week, just one of the 5 days, Monday through Friday. It's about 2 hours from 11 to 1 to deliver. And then you'd be with a volunteer who would actually go and take the meals to the door, but they would really appreciate getting some help for that, for it. Wanted to note that we are well over 10,000 employments for the Riverton Regional, or excuse me, Central Wyoming Regional Airport in Riverton, which is awesome. That's our 3rd year in a row for that. And the August employments likewise were some of our highest ever. So appreciate all the good work that's happening there. Couple of things coming up in terms of some important meetings. One in Lander, one in Riverton. The Public Service Commission will be having a public hearing about the proposed Rocky Mountain Power rate increases. Strongly encourage folks to go. There's potentially impacts to the city of Lander as well for that, obviously. See how that goes for us. And then the regulatory task force is meeting in Lander on the 20th and 21st. And on the 21st specifically, they're talking about the housing challenges all across Wyoming and strongly encourage folks to go and provide testimony to their own, if they've had challenges with acquiring reasonable housing at a reasonable price, to help inform the committee and others present for that. I've had some great conversations that follow up with Fabian Lobera about what the 3 various businesses have received from the economic development tax and the grants awarded to them. And first, I'll start with, he would welcome the chance to come and speak to us at one of our work sessions to go a little more in depth about how it's worked, what's been beneficial, some of the goals that he was after, and that in assisting Lander with economic development and how that fits into it. On a short note, he did say it was okay to share that so far they've already generated over 40,000 in sales tax locally, which basically, if you back that in, means that's almost 730,000 in local spending. So it's all gone right back into the Lander economy. And with only a few units available, they've already generated over 1,000 in lodging tax. So it's already quickly becoming a nice economic driver for that. And I believe that's my last one. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Hahn.
Lance isn't here, so
Yeah, that's.
I'll wait till next time.
Okay,
Oh, man.
Councilman Cox.
Thank you. Okay, a couple of things. We had an event here this last weekend with the gravel grinder event. I don't know if any of you were able to participate in any of the activities, but again, just a packed full summer with events in Lander and the gravel grinder, and I'm not going to say it correctly, but anyway, it's essentially a road bike with thicker tires that you can ride on the gravel. It was really cool. And there was a lot of people from all over and just another really great event here in our community, which I would assume will be here year after year. A couple questions on First Street, the one-way by the chamber as well as Lander or the Gannett Grill Lander Bar. Is there a pedestrian right-of-way? I know the chief and Lance are not here, but as you turn and head north, does the automobile have the right of way or does the pedestrian? Do we know?
I think pedestrians,
Well, it currently is.
I think it's pedestrians always have the right of way in a crosswalk, and that's a crosswalk.
There's no crosswalk.
Oh, I thought that we painted one in there. Maybe we need to paint one in.
I think there might have been a bumped pedestrian here recently. It just. Reggie, you might have an answer for me.
I don't have any answers, but there is not a crossing there at First Street anywhere.
Mhm.
And at the ADA improvements that YDOT did 2 years ago, they actually removed the ones that were there. They're trying to encourage people to go up to the lighted intersections.
Well, this
So-
would be just to cross First Street, not to cross Main Street.
Right, so, to across First Street on the north side of Main.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, so there are handicap ramps there, but there's nothing that goes across Main.
So there is not a sidewalk
There's
and designated pedestrian
there's not.
crossing.
Back in 2016, when we did the TAP grant for Main Street, one of the recommendations in there is that the city mark all those crosswalks,
Mhm.
or east and west, I should say, across Main Street. We did it 1 year as a trial and we've never done it since. So I don't have a good answer for that. But the mayor's right. In the state of Wyoming, the pedestrians always have the right of way. Jaywalking, whatever, the pedestrian always has the right of way.
Well, it's interesting, the jaywalking, why not have to follow up on that? If it's appropriate, I would like it to be marked.
That's what I just wrote it down.
Perfect. I
Mhm.
think that it creates, it's already a little bit cumbersome with traffic as it is, but if, especially when we are having construction on Second Street, folks are traveling that road a significant amount more than I think initially anticipated. And there is a lot of traffic, a lot of foot traffic and a lot of traffic.
Especially with Second Street being under
Yes,
construction.
yeah, I
So
think,
it's bad.
yep, and ice cream shop.
Mhm.
Yep. Right, thank you. Also just a shout out to the 9/11 ceremony that was held yesterday. It was, you guys did a good job. And I also want to just give a pitch to, and I did this already, to the schools. There were, I believe, 6 classes of students there, 6 to 7, I think, and they were also very well behaved. There were a couple of young men that took their hats off, as the flag came around, and just, there was no teacher that told them to do that. They just did that instinctually. And I, oftentimes there's the bump of the kid, like, shh, quiet, but there was none of that. And it's just really nice to see. And then a good turnout of the community. School district info, I attended they had an information night last night and they were able to present what all of the departments do. I would encourage any of you to go onto the Fremont County School District #1 website, because within that website, they have all of the auxiliaries. So, the food service and the
Infinite Campus, where you can get on and see all of the things that they're providing as a school. They do a lot of really encouraging things. But the most important thing that's going to happen here in October is the Family Resource Center is going to be opening. That location is going to be at the old North Building. Most of you are familiar with that, I would guess, but that's going to be a resource center that they'll have every month. They'll choose a topic and provide resources, but also there's going to be some parent engagement nights where they'll support parents in different ways. I think the first one will be October 5th. Don't quote me on that. And it will be on ADHD. And there will be a presentation and there will be some support groups. We intend to, or Matt Jacobson, who's spearheading it, intends to provide some support resources for parents. So specifically around like AA, NA, Alateen for our students. So some really cool things happening at that facility. And we will be having a ribbon cutting ceremony in October as well. Also LIDA, we meet tomorrow. I do have to just voice a bit of concern when it comes to our volunteer boards and making sure that we are treating them with mutual respect. I think it's hard. They do a lot. And there seems to be some level of not attacking. That's pretty, maybe too aggressive of a word. But just really a lot of not mutual respect in some ways. And we cannot afford to lose volunteer board members. And so I know that there are things that need to be questioned and should be questioned, but I also know that my concern would always be losing quality people who are willing to give up hours and hours and hours of their time. And so just to keep things in mind, I know sometimes it's heated and we get irritated or whatever, but, or I do, I don't know about Dan. You're compassionate. Just to keep those things in mind, so that we're not having to resolve relationships within our volunteer boards. And I think that's it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Uh-oh. Yeah, let's do both.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
I talk fast, so maybe it goes
You
quickly.
should. I just have to listen quick.
That's right. That's the charge. So I do have a few things. I second Councilwoman Cox's praise for the 9/11 ceremony. My thanks, Mayor, to you and to those who organized it. I think it prompted a great deal of reflection, which was, of course, the goal for that day. So thank you. In terms of events happening in Lander, I did want to name the Wyoming Working Together Conference is happening next week here in Lander. We're the host city. It's a conference set up by the Wyoming Main Street, the Wyoming State Chamber of Commerce, and the Wyoming Economic Development Association. Looks like a pretty packed 3-day agenda around economic development in Wyoming, and lots of problem solving and collaboration amongst all the various entities. So pretty exciting for Lander to be the host city. I know there's a lot of our leaders and residents who are engaged in panels or tours and showing off Lander, as well as hopefully learning some tips and tricks from other entities and municipalities who are coming together for that conference. I think our chamber director, Mr. Sweeney, came to us a couple months, maybe even longer ago, to talk about this, and I suspect he's had a major role in helping organize it. So in absentia, thanks to Mr. Sweeney for that. I had a meeting with a LIDA board member to discuss the request from LIDA for some operational funds from, as you know, they came to us asking for funds from the 50-cent economic development tax. And we discussed that, as well as other options for them to seek some funding for those operational requests that they are looking for. And I think I was helpful for me to learn and see, to your phrasing, Councilwoman Cox, that there are a volunteer board. I think in the past, LIDA has operated much more independently in a way that it hasn't always felt like it's our volunteer board sort of setting. And I heard pretty squarely that the board now considers themselves in that way. And there's maybe a distinction in relationship there that from what the past has been. I would name that the Papoja Conservation District meets tomorrow, and they have published a draft long-range plan for the next from 2024 to 2028. It looks like a strategic plan with a different name. And they're seeking public comment on this plan. It's posted on their website and it is a refreshing 12 pages long. So do not feel like you don't have the time to look at this and comment on it. You do, in fact, have that time. It's a nice succinct plan, and I think that staff were involved in the consultation process developing it. So comments are due October 31st and easy to find on their website, and read through it and send in your ideas as well. Lastly, I'll name that I'm one of several residents in this county who were named to the EMS committee that the county has put together to solve hopefully try to solve the problems of secure EMS funding for going forward. And so happy to serve as an official, I suppose, liaison, taking council and City of Lander residents' input back to that committee, and I'll share information as we develop and move through that process back at this stage as well. There you go, Mayor. Thank you.
You did fast. No, I gotta go slow. I got time. No, thank you, Councilman Stool. Just real quick on my end, I want to give you guys a heads up that Fremont County Associations of Government, if you've heard about the state shooting range that they want to bring into Wyoming, that we are moving forward and putting a plan together to have it come to central Wyoming, call it central Wyoming here in Fremont County. So we've got 4 or 5 different locations. Right now we're getting maps for. We are talking economic funds. They'll be coming around asking for $15,000 in economic funds right at this point in time. Talked to Sharon Young's her name from the state. She's on that board too, and they're looking at these shooting ranges. There's one in Albuquerque and one down in New Mexico somewhere. It's a state shooting range put in by the state, and it should bring about, she's saying, $8 million in revenue to the Fremont County a year. So it'd be complex, but as we start developing more and more, I'll let you know. But just to give you a heads up, they will probably be coming and asking for some half-cent money to help get the ball rolling. So like I said, it's a good thing, and it's all about economic development, and it'll bring in a lot of jobs, and it'll take 43 acres or something. One shooting range is a football field wide, because the lanes are 25 feet wide, and you'll have 12 of those in one complex. And you'll have shotgun, shooting ranges, you'll have pistols, you'll have archery, you'll have all that. So it would be a good asset for Fremont County to bring something like that in. So this is Fremont County Association of Governments working on this. Just real quick, put it out there. We lost our WRTA supervisor and FKG manager. He's leaving to go back to work for the Catholic College. So he'll be well missed. So if you see Gary, tell him thanks for 7 years of great service, but that'll be position becoming open. So, but like I said, other than that, just lots of good things happening. So, and still moving forward. So thank you guys. Okay, staff. Regine.
Thank you, Mayor. We did have a chat, and that was Mike Cusick confirming that pedestrians have the right of way in Wyoming. So I just want to let you know that. The other thing is First and Second Street and Main crossings are currently being included in the study for the proposed River Parkway. They've had cameras up. They had cameras up to count the number of pedestrians and vehicles in those 2 intersections during the summer. And next week, they're going to have them up again for getting the school traffic. And so we should have some good information and good data for those pedestrian actions there at those 2 intersections. The request for proposals for the 2024 master plan should go out yet this month. And that is the master plan that will include, among other things, the park development plan that Dan was referring to. What are we going to put in that proposed River Park? The Energy and Environmental Task Force is going to come to you guys in an October work session and talk about the greenhouse gas reduction goals. So that will be a work session in October. And the Housing Authority is going to come to you in a future work session to kind of refine the relationship between the land, the building, and the Housing Authority as management of the Table Mountain Living Community. They're getting ready to put in for a $10 million loan to the State Land Board, and that either long-term lease or whatever that relationship is going to be will have to be discerned before we put in for that application.
Okay.
That's all I have.
That's it. Thank you. Kevin?
Yep, Shari didn't leave me any information.
Okay, Adam?
Sorry, didn't leave me any information either, but I don't have any other
Playing
updates.
her for everything. Rachel?
I have nothing. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, since there's nothing else on that staff reports, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Approval of amended July 11th, 2023 regular city council meeting minutes. Be approval of August 8th, 2023 regular council minute meetings. Approval August 22nd, 2023 city council work session minute meetings, and approval of bills and claims. There we go, motion.
And
Second.
Mr.
Go ahead.
Mayor,
Oh, go
I
ahead.
just wanted to admit that the July minutes are on there as amended because they were inadvertently published without the detail of the bills and claims. So I've gone back and published with the detail of the bills and claims, and it was in the newspaper as well. So, and I also checked the past 9 months, and this was the only time that happened.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Get a second.
Second?
Got a motion by Councilman Cox, second by Councilman White. To approve the consent agenda, I'm gonna call for the question. Councilman Larson?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay, moving on to new business. Item A, approve resolution 1205, a resolution amending 22-23 FY budget. We talked about it just a little bit ago. Kevin, Rochelle, you're both on here. Have anything else to add?
It is as Kevin read. If anyone has questions, we'll do our best to answer them.
Any questions?
I do just have a
Go ahead.
comment, but I didn't know if we wanted to do that after the motion. You want me to make it now?
You can make a comment.
Make it now.
Discuss.
Yeah, so
Okay. So can I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve resolution 1305.
I get a second?
second.
Got a motion by Councilman White, a second by Councilwoman Stubble to approve resolution 1305. Discussion. Councilman Cox.
Thank you, Mayor. The only comment I have, and I know that Shari's not here, is there was a substantial amount of money that was we generated the revenue, unanticipated revenue, but then to see that the expenditures, there was $120,000 that was in that, or 125 that went to the golf course and then also to streets. I know we had talked about, but I'm not 100% sure if the streets was the snow removal or if, where that is. And so I'm wondering if there could be a little bit more detail within those line items so that we could see actual expenditures. If that's a fair request, I would guess. I know Shari can do it because she has access to it. So it would just be nice to know as we look at it exactly, where did that $15,000 go to the rodeo and those types of things.
I'd probably help you with that one. Was those panels we rented up there?
Right, which is great to know. So knowing
Yeah.
that the panels were repaired and which ones and why, and
Right.
then we have a little bit more knowledge as to where the expenditures
Councilman
are.
Hahn?
Yeah, I'll just add to that. The one thing I wanted to talk, and Lance isn't here, so I didn't want to bring it up, but I have concerns about snow control. The state is really beefing up. They are expecting a really harsh winter. And our snow plan was a disaster this last year. I mean, you couldn't even get out of your house. And so yeah, I'm hoping, I mean, obviously we're passing this, but, or maybe past this. But I'm hoping that we have funds available to do what it takes to clear this town out so people can get around. I mean, even with a four-wheel drive, we couldn't even get out of the house. It was that bad. So anyway, that's all I wanted to add.
Okay.
You know.
Thank you. Anybody else? Call for the question. Council Woods?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Moving on to new business. Approval resolution 1306 exempting Fremont County Pioneer Museum property from open container provision. The city ordinance 2-2-12 until November 1st, 2024. We had great discussion on this the last time. So can I get a motion in a second?
Move to approve resolution 1306.
Can I get a second?
Second.
A motion by Councilman Larson, second by Councilman Stubble. To approve resolution 1306. Questions? Councilwoman White?
Simple question, Mayor, would this then go in effect immediately?
Yes.
Okay, great. That's what I thought, wanted to clarify.
Mayor, similar question. The text of the resolution that I'm looking at from our shared drive has it ending December 31st, 2024, not November 1st, 2024. And I think we discussed bouncing it back from the
December,
New Year's Eve.
right.
Yeah. So that edit doesn't show up on the version, at least that I'm looking at in our drive.
You might be looking at different ones. Mine has November 1, 2024.
Great. There are two in the drive. Perhaps that's it. Is that weird? Thank you, Richard. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. All right. Got any more questions? Move, call for the question. Councilman Larson?
Yes.
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, moving on to item C. Approval of resolution 1307, application for CDBG Community Development Block Grant for access to the Poja Aggie River Park. Discussion and let's call for a question, motion.
So moved.
Get a second.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman White, second by Councilman Larson to approve resolution 1307. Discussion. Regine just talked about it.
Yeah,
Anybody have a question? Councilman Hahn?
yes, I'd like to make a comment. I really have never been a fan of this new park. I think some of the different things that we did with our original park and then all of a sudden coming in and we're buying two new parks. But the one thing I on a positive note, because I've always hated this putting filtered water on all the green. And I see that in our one of the recommendations on this new master plan, water master plan, is a non-potable water system level 2 study.
Mhm.
And I'm definitely for that. Whatever happens, we need to definitely move forward with that and stop wasting the drinking water on all the lawns. So anyway, that's all my comment there.
Thank you. Councilman White?
Thank you for finding a 100% grant, Regine. That's phenomenal. I was anticipating there'd be at least a single digit, but a 0% contribution is lovely. Thank you for that work.
Anybody else? Comments? I'll call for the question. Councilman Stool?
Yes.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Moving on to item D. Approve resolution 1308 exempting the Pioneer Museum property from open container provisions with the city ordinance 2-2-212. We just had discussion about that also. I'd like the discussion. Can I get a motion?
Mayor, I move approval of resolution 1308.
Can I get a second?
Second.
A motion by Councilwoman Stubble, second by Councilwoman Cox. To approve resolution 1308. Questions? Councilwoman White,
Do we need to do this since we just passed a resolution?
that was a public hearing.
We don't have to do it, but I was unsure whether or not the
would-
proposed one would move forward, and these folks are having a wedding before we would meet again, so I put them both on.
Yeah, so it's a bit pro forma, but
It
Yeah.
is, and redundant at this
Yeah.
point, but
okay. Still, makes it easy to say yes.
Covered,
Yeah. All the questions.
covering all bases. Any other questions? I'm gonna call for the question. We're ready. Councilwoman Stubble.
Yes.
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 Yes,
Yes.
Yes. Moving on to item E. Approve resolution 1309, application Wyoming Water Development Commission for the funds of the tank and pump station project. Get a motion. In a
Move to
second,
approve 1309.
in a second.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Larson, second by Councilman Cox. To approve resolution 1309. Discussion, Regine.
Thank you. Lance is sorry he couldn't be here, but I'll try and cover the next ones as best I can. 1308 is, or 1309, the tanks and pump station project is already underway. So we're already working on that. We went to Wyoming Water Development and got an increase in price, and they granted that. Now we've gone to them and asked for an increase in time. So there is no cost attached to this resolution. But we have to show support for this resolution so that when they go to the Water Commission for legislated funds, that it shows council support of the extension time.
How much time are we looking at there, Regine? You know?
I don't know the total time extension, but I think we're asking for an extension through December of 2025. Correct? I have to look really quick.
I think you're right.
Yeah. So I don't know how much longer that is than the
Yeah.
original project.
Okay.
Typically, it's a year.
Questions? And call for the question, Councilman Larson.
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
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 Yes. Moving on to item F. Approval resolution 1310, authorizing application for Wyoming Water Development Commission for funding and level 3 well construction. Need a motion, second have discussion.
Move to approve resolution 1310.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Cox, second by Councilman Stubble. To approve resolution 1310 and discussion, Regine.
Thank you again. So this is another one, Wyoming Water Development Commission process. You guys already approved the increased application amount. So now Water Development has agreed to that application increased amount. And they need this resolution again to show council support when they go and ask for the legislative funds from the Water Commission.
Questions?
The only
Go ahead.
just point of reference is a considerable adjustment in price. So it's, these projects are just seeming to increase in cost as we,
Materials.
it's very concerning for future projects as well.
What do you do?
I know, yeah,
You know,
what do you
that's the
do?
thing. Your
Mhm.
hands are tied, the gun's held to your head.
Yeah.
And, it's not a
Yeah.
pretty situation, but what you got.
Okay, other comments? Call for a question, Councilman Larson.
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
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 Yeah, sorry. Moving on to item G. Adopt the 2023 Water Master Plan. Need a motion? Second, I'll have discussion.
Move to approve the 2023 Water Master Plan.
Okay, second,
Second.
got a motion by Councilwoman Cox, second by Councilwoman Stubble. To adopt the 23 Water Master Plan. Regine.
Thank you. I will entertain any questions, but this is what was presented at the last work session. And adoption of the plan, of course, just means that it sets a course forward. Adopting the plan doesn't commit any expenditure of funds. Everything that was going to be committed as a project under this in the future would be run through you guys, just like it was for the water rate changes. Those types of recommendations would be implemented one at a time, and grant applications would be implemented one at a time. So adopting the study sets the course where we can apply for grant funds, but just adopting it in and of itself does not commit any funds today.
Councilman Hahn?
Okay, so if I understood what you said, all these recommendations here, 1 through 48, going from 2024 to 2044, these are recommendations and we can do whatever we want here. Nothing is set in stone.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Mary, I would make, thank you. I would make just a comment, that it is I thought it was a deeply informative document. And for setting a vision forward, I think for planning, for securing water supply, for talking about sort of creative problem solving, looking out into the future, I was, frankly, just, so impressed. So thanks to HDR, thanks to the city staff who spent countless hours. I'm sure there's others I'm not naming, and thank you, but, I would encourage folks to read it. The executive summary is 12 pages long, if you want to start with that. And again, I learned quite a bit. And I'm grateful for the work that went into it in terms of setting that vision. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else comments? Call for the question, Councilman Stubble.
Yes.
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 Yes. Moving on, H, adopt Hillcrest Strategic Plan Joint Study with Fremont County. Take a motion in a second.
Mayor, I will move that we adopt the Hillcrest Strategic Plan Joint Study with Fremont County.
Take a second.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Stubble, second by Councilwoman Cox. Adopt the Hillcrest Strategic Plan Joint Study with Fremont County. Comments? Regine, you got your mic on.
Yeah, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Again, it was presented at the last work session. It is a study, so it doesn't commit any funds. The county and the city will have to come before the council if any designs or constructions from the recommendations of the study want to be implemented.
Councilman Hahn?
Yeah, this is definitely one that I question, but one of the big questions I have is I've heard 10% the project is ours. I've heard 30% of the project is ours. Hillcrest is not even a mile long and maybe 1/10 of a mile is ours. So what is the real percentage, or is that available?
Excuse me, I'm looking here in the documents that were given to you. Lineal feet wise, it is almost 30% of the study area is in the city limits.
30%.
So from Bridger Street out to our park pathway that goes down into City Park.
Yeah.
And then the other 2/3 is from that City Park pathway out to Mortimer Lane. And 30% isn't an exact number, but it is almost 30%.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Other questions? This doesn't tie us into doing anything on our percent. But if we did want to go after funding, I think it would give us a chance to go get funding if you decided to do something with it. Right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. Call for the question. Councilman Stewart.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, moving on to item I. Release and accept Maven headquarters project completion and authorize mayor to sign high bond certification of final completion. Can I get I got a motion by Councilman Cox, second by Councilwoman Stubble to move forward. Oh, yes. So, questions? Concerns?
I would just make the comment, I mean, it feels a little anticlimactic to do so without, the stakeholders who we've been working with, no comment that they're not here, but, you know, after so much conversation and so much work and so much staff time, like, wow, here we are. So again, I guess gratitude to everybody involved. What a lift, what a project.
That's a good project, so. Okay, call for the question, Councilman Larson.
Yes.
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 Yes. Moving on to J, new business. Approval and authorize mayor to sign juvenile justice service for Fremont County agreement for 23-24. We talked about this at the last meeting also. They come and presented to us. And we did raise that to the $30,000. Can I get a motion? A second?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
I got a motion by Councilman White, second by Councilman Cox to authorize mayor to sign the juvenile justice service for Fremont County agreement. Questions?
Just have a couple of questions. One, I don't know who put this document together, but it's well done and there's a lot within it. My question would be, who's responsible to monitor that the terms and conditions of this contract are met?
Michelle, Adam.
There really isn't a good way to monitor it. I mean, generally in the past, we've anticipated they were doing what they were supposed to. And it's a year-long contract, so it gives us an opportunity each year to address and assess if they're doing everything under the contract. And if they're not, then we can say, no, we don't want your services anymore.
I think that's a great idea. I also know, just because I did it for as long as I did,
So I was gonna say you.
there's a portion of it that requires a quarterly report. Which I think, I mean, $30,000, we have some teeth in the game here. And we do have some community, you know, requests to deal with some juvenile justice matters. And so I think it would behoove us as a council to be a little bit more aware of, because there's a lot of great things within here. So when they come to do their quarterly reports, to ensure that those things are happening too.
And Mr. Mayor, some of these
Go ahead.
folks that you guys want to come in and do some of these reports, they don't necessarily have to be here in person. They can submit them in writing and then we can give them to you. And then if you guys want more information, you can invite them to attend a council meeting. And that may be able to help with some of our council meetings to get more information to you guys in short form and be more efficient. But just a suggestion.
Yeah, I think quarterly reports would be great to the council, so you can see where your money's going.
But I would agree. And it says that all within this contract.
Mhm.
So it's good.
Okay, any other questions? Then call for the question, Councilman Larson.
Yes.
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 Yes. Moving
Mayor,
on.
may I make I'm sorry. I didn't want it to allude like I didn't think they're doing it. I think it's really good stuff that they're doing and they need to come and acknowledge that.
It's just funding.
When I was hearing myself talk, I was like, oh, that didn't sound good.
We trust them.
They're doing a good job. I want them to come and celebrate that.
No. All right, moving on to it's 2023-3, first reading, amending Title 12, Section 12-3-3, Parks and Recreation to include city parks rules. And a motion in a second. Have discussion.
I move to approve ordinance 2023-3, the first
Get
reading.
a second.
Second.
A motion by Councilwoman Cox, second by Councilwoman White. And this is just the first reading, so things can be adjusted as we go.
And I do have a
Adam?
comment, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. If you want to fix the redundancy in the language of the ordinance, we can do that and bring it to you next time. And then you at second reading, and then you guys can approve it with the amended language at second reading, or you can make an amendment tonight and then we can vote on it for first reading, but it's up to you guys on how you want to address that.
Let them adjust the ordinance, bring it back to us.
And the redundancy specifically was that it states the misdemeanor punishable, and it says it right prior to that, correct?
That is the redundancy. It probably would be easier just to allow us to fix it and bring it to you next time at second reading, quite honestly, but again,
Sounds good.
it's up to you guys.
That sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me, guys. Call for the question. Yes, go ahead.
May I make one more comment?
Yes.
I think in terms of bringing back, I don't know if this needs to be amended per se, but to my point, that the way, like, if you look at the ordinance name on our agenda or on this, it says to include city park rules, and I think we should make it clear that we're amending this for all parks, not what people assume as city park. So I don't have the language suggestion, but you can take that into consideration and make that change, that it's all parks that we're looking at, not just city park. Thank you.
All parts. Okay. Anybody else? Call for the question, Councilman Larson.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, there's nothing else. Brought forth to the council. And get a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
A second,
Second.
motion by Councilwoman White, second by Councilman Cox to adjourn the meeting. September 12th, 2023. Call for the question, Councilman Stubble.
Yes.
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 Meeting is adjourned. I went and got a quick hamburger.
That was good recommendation.